Your backyard might not be as safe as you think. Some of the plants growing right outside your door can trigger intense sneezing, itchy skin, or even serious allergic reactions. They look harmless and smell normal, but for millions of people, these common garden plants are seasonal nightmares. Today we're counting down 15 extremely allergenic garden plants that grow in America. Number 1. Ragweed, or also called Ambrosia. Ragweed is one of the main culprits behind fall hay fever. Even a single plant can release huge amounts of pollen that the wind carries for miles. It usually starts flowering in August and keeps going until the first frost. Its green, feathery leaves look a lot like ferns. If your eyes are itchy and your nose won't stop running in late summer, ragweed is probably to blame. The pollen is so fine that it can drift right into your home through open windows, or even hitch a ride on your pet's fur. Since it grows almost everywhere, from roadsides to gardens, avoiding it completely during peak season is nearly impossible. Number 2. Giant ragweed. This plant is basically a giant version of common ragweed, and it can get really tall, sometimes over 10 feet. You'll often find it growing in damp soil or along the edges of gardens, especially where the ground has been disturbed. Because it's so big, it produces a lot more pollen than its smaller cousin. Its leaves are wide and usually split into 3 or 5 sections, almost like a giant hand. The key is to get rid of it before it starts flowering in midsummer. Wait too long, and even brushing against it while pulling it out can send up a huge cloud of yellow dust, triggering instant sneezing and coughing. It's definitely one of those plants you don't want to mess with unprepared. Number 3. English ivy. English ivy might look nice climbing up walls and trees, but it comes with a few real problems. The sap inside the leaves and stems can irritate your skin, causing red itchy rashes for many people. Because ivy grows so thick and dense, it also traps dust, bird droppings, and mold inside the vines. When you start cutting or pulling it down, all of that gets stirred up and released into the air. For some people, this can trigger coughing, breathing issues, or allergic reactions. On top of that, English ivy is extremely tough. Once it takes hold, it spreads fast and can completely cover walls, fences, or even choke out trees. If you plan to remove a large patch, it's smart to protect yourself. Wear long sleeves, gloves, and a mask. It's one of those plants that looks harmless, but definitely deserves some caution. Number 4. Poison ivy. Poison ivy is well known for causing a really painful, blistering rash. The culprit is an oil called urushiol, which is in every part of the plant, leaves, stems, and even the roots, and it stays active even in winter. You can usually spot poison ivy by its classic leaves of 3, which might look shiny or dull. It can grow low on the ground or climb up trees as a thick, hairy vine. Even a quick brush against it can transfer the oil to your skin or clothes. The tricky part is that once urushiol gets on your clothing, tools, or gloves, it can stick around for months, causing a rash every time you touch those items. Basically, it's a plant you definitely don't want to handle without protection. Number 5. Poison oak. Poison oak is a lot like poison ivy, but you're more likely to run into it in the western and southern states. Like poison ivy, its leaves grow in groups of 3, but the leaves look more like small oak leaves with rounded, wavy edges. It contains the same irritating oil called urushiol, which can cause the familiar itchy, blistering rash. Poison oak can grow as a bush on its own or climb like a vine. In the fall, the leaves often turn a bright, eye-catching red, which might tempt you to pick them for decorations, but resist the urge. Touching the leaves can trigger a nasty skin reaction that can take weeks to heal. Number 6. Poison sumac. Poison sumac usually grows in very wet places. Think swamps, marshes, or along the edges of ponds. It looks like a small tree or shrub, with smooth leaves lined up along bright red stems. One easy way to spot it is by its berries. Poison sumac has white or gray berries that hang down in clusters. Touching any part of this plant can cause a nasty skin reaction, often even worse than poison ivy. And because it grows in damp areas, the plant's oils can sometimes wash into standing water, making the surrounding area risky for gardeners or hikers. It's definitely one to admire from a safe distance. Number 7. Juniper. Juniper bushes and trees are popular in landscaping because they stay green all year and don't need much water. But there's a downside. In the spring, they release a ton of pollen. Male junipers in particular can create visible clouds of yellow dust whenever the wind blows or the branches are brushed. Their needles are also incredibly sharp and can easily scratch your skin. Those tiny scratches often turn into itchy bumps because of the irritating oils in the foliage. If you ever need to prune them, make sure to wear thick gloves and a long-sleeve shirt. Your arms will thank you for it. Number 8. Bermuda Grass. Bermuda grass is a favorite for lawns in warmer parts of the US because it's tough and stays green even under a lot of foot traffic. But beneath its neat, lush appearance, it can be a big trigger for allergies. When the grass grows long enough to form tiny, purple-tinged seed heads, it releases pollen into the air. Even just mowing the lawn can kick up allergens and mold from the soil. If you have sensitive skin, walking through Bermuda grass in short socks or sandals can leave your ankles and legs red and itchy. On top of that, this grass spreads aggressively through runners, which means it can quickly sneak from your lawn into flower beds, where it's much harder to control. Number 9. Timothy grass. Timothy is a tall, common grass you'll often see in open fields, pastures, and along the edges of rural properties. It's easy to recognize by the long, cylindrical flower head at the top, which almost looks like a soft, fuzzy tail. In early summer, this grass releases large amounts of pollen into the air. For people living near meadows or wide open spaces, it's a major cause of sneezing, itchy throats, and watery eyes. In fact, Timothy grass is one of the most common triggers of summer hay fever in the United States. While it's highly valued as feed for livestock, it can be a real problem for anyone with seasonal allergies. Living close to fields full of this grass often means dealing with symptoms for weeks at a time. Number 10. Johnson grass. Johnson grass is an aggressive, fast-growing weed that can easily tower over a yard, sometimes reaching more than 6 feet tall. It looks nothing like normal lawn grass, with wide, rough leaves and a noticeable white stripe running down the center. At the top, it forms large branching seed heads that release huge amounts of pollen. Because the plant grows so tall, the wind picks that pollen up and spreads it everywhere, over fences, across yards, and even into nearby homes where it can trigger allergies. What makes Johnson grass especially hard to deal with is its powerful root system. Even if you cut it back, it often comes right back stronger than before. It tends to take over neglected corners of gardens and fence lines, especially in areas with rich soil. And once it settles in, it can be a real challenge to remove. Number 11. Sunflower. Sunflowers are stunning to look at, but for people with allergies, they can be a real problem. That big round center is packed with pollen designed to attract bees. The issue is that this pollen is heavy and easily falls onto your skin or gets knocked loose by even a gentle breeze. If you bring real sunflowers inside, the pollen doesn't just disappear. It settles into carpets, couches, and other surfaces, keeping your allergies triggered long after the flowers are gone. If you love the sunflower look, it's better to plant them well away from windows or choose special pollen-free varieties instead. Number 12. Chrysanthemums. Often called mums, these flowers are a favorite for adding bright color to the garden in fall. What many people don't realize is that they're closely related to ragweed, which explains why they can cause similar allergic reactions. For some gardeners, touching the leaves or flowers leads to red, itchy, irritated skin. This usually happens during pruning or deadheading, when you're handling the plants a lot to keep them blooming. If you're planting, moving, or trimming mums, wearing gloves is a smart idea. And while many people enjoy their smell, the scent can be surprisingly strong and may even trigger headaches for sensitive individuals. They're beautiful fall flowers, but not as harmless as they look. Number 13. Daffodils. Daffodils are some of the first flowers to show up in spring, often marking the end of winter. While their pollen usually isn't a problem because it's too heavy to float through the air, the plant itself can still cause trouble. Inside the stems is a clear sap that's a strong skin irritant. It contains tiny needle-like crystals that can lead to what's commonly called daffodil itch. This usually happens when people pick the flowers or cut the stems for a vase without wearing gloves. The irritation often feels like a sharp stinging or burning sensation, especially on the fingertips. It's also worth being careful with the bulbs. If pets chew on or eat them, they can become sick, since daffodil bulbs are toxic. Number 14. Latex-producing fig trees. Fig trees, including common figs and ornamental types like the fiddle leaf, produce a milky white sap in their stems and leaves. That sap contains natural latex, which is a known allergen. For people with a latex allergy, even brief contact can cause an immediate skin reaction and, in some cases, more serious symptoms. Even if you don't have a latex allergy, the sap can still be a nuisance. It's very sticky, hard to wash off, and often leaves the skin feeling itchy or uncomfortably dry. Pruning branches or picking fruit is usually when people come into contact with it, so extra care helps. Number 15. Mugwort. Mugwort is a tough, fast-growing plant with silvery green leaves and a strong sage-like smell. You'll often see it growing wild along fences, roadsides, or neglected areas, but once it shows up, it can easily spread into garden beds. In late summer, mugwort releases a large amount of very fine pollen, right around the same time ragweed is active. Because of that, many people who think they're allergic to ragweed are actually reacting to mugwort floating in the air. This plant is especially stubborn because it spreads through its roots. Even small pieces left in the soil can grow back. If you spot mugwort in your yard, it's best to remove it as early as possible, before it flowers and adds even more pollen to the air.